So who do we have on? So I'll have to look. When I do these, I always have to put the phone a little further away from the pictures. Let's see who's on. All the neighbors are here. Mike, thanks, man. I love it. How many, is this the third one you guys have done as neighbors? Or I know you missed last one. How many, what number is this? I hope the neighbors, is it the same motley crew as last time? I really appreciate the picture. Please take another one and send it to me. It's fun. I'll add it in when I do the recap. But let me know. So, all these new features on here. Every time I get on, there's some new feature I got to learn. So I got some rising stars thing up here in the corner. So I need to do these more often. So 6 today. Well, hi Mike's crew. What do we just call you, Mike's crew? Or we need to come up with a name for Mike's Motley Crew. So thanks for joining. So for 6 people, how many wines did you end up getting from them from Wine Spies? We're way early, so I'm not going to start, so we can chat around. Those of you that have joined on Instagram, I'm looking at you now. I'm doing this on TikTok, so you can kind of follow. Hey, Wine Spies! Oh, look at you. So I'm obviously on TikTok, and I'll do and answer the questions on TikTok, but I do sort of do it dual on Instagram, just because I do have a few followers over there and a couple people that are not on TikTok that I like to follow. So we'll do that. So 3 bottles, cool. Sounds good. I'm sure they were good about it. So Vino Gal, welcome. So I know I'm early. I just thought I'd get on here, make sure I got the mirror thing flipped and worked out. Instagram has me really dark, so I don't know why I'm so dark on, I'm not gonna worry on Instagram. If Instagram's pushed my stuff as well as TikTok, I'd be worried about them more. Hello, Vino Gal. Did you get the wine? I'm just curious who actually got the wine, and this is going to be sort of back to basics. So cool. I'm happy to see you live as well. Thanks for joining. So if you're just joining and you've not been around, we do these. Mike could probably tell you, this might be the 5th month in a row that we've done these. So we started doing it. I would jump on lives and do education. Then a few of you said, Jamie, can you start doing let's start doing these. And I said, sure. So, hey, South Carolina. My daughter's in South Carolina, going to school down there. So she actually thought she might join today as well. So I got her a bottle. But we try to do these. I think it's been fun. It's my followers that really pushed me to do these, and I like them. I like doing them. It's a lot of work, but and we'll talk about that when sort of everybody joins here. But it's a lot of fun. There she is, Paigey Girls there with 4 friends. Hi, Paige friends from South Carolina. We got a couple South Carolina people represented here. Go Gamecocks. But again, I'll give it a couple minutes just for some people to kind of trickle in here, and we will go. But again, if you're new to my channel, I try to do these once a month or so, maybe once every 6 weeks. Sort of goes as much as I can get the logistics of trying to get the wine. I've already got a plan for the next tasting, and then they'll go from there. So we're warming up with the Rioja. There you go. That's my agent code at Wine Spies. I'm Agent Rioja. So. Thanks, Wine Spy. See, Agent Rioja. So when I did this first tasting with them, they let me. I said I wanted to. I do it, but I had to get a code name or a spy name. So it's Agent Shannon. I'm pretty sure probably teasing me to be Agent Rioja. So cheers from Mexico. Cheers from Ohio. Wine Spies. Cheers there in California. So. So anyway, so welcome, and then and we'll kind of jump in. So again, this is going to kind of be back to basics. So the last couple ones we had some special guests. You're stuck with just me tonight. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. The last few ones we had some winemakers join us. I think Wine Spies got that done for me, and then last time I did it with my friends at Denver Wine Merchant, and they're an advanced som and a master som joined me. So they were able to answer some questions and fill in some gaps for me. But I'm going solo tonight, which is fine. So we're going to definitely go back to some basic things with tasting today, and it's going to be more educational because I think we did, if you think about it, we did Rioja and we talked a lot about Rioja. Then we did a couple of very unique varietals. I did Albarino and Valdegay with wine spies, and then last time we did Etna Rossos, and that was with Denver Wine Merchant, and that was a blast. So we were drinking probably varietals that many of us have never had before, and kind of, we were exploring new things. So I thought this time it would be fun to kind of go back to some traditional grapes, and it doesn't get more traditional than Pinot Noir. So we will talk about Pinot Noir. We're going to talk about wine spies. I know I want to drink probably as much as you guys do, so I got this sitting here. So if you have your wine out, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because I want to do a little bit of educational background before we kind of jump into this wine, because again, we're going to go through some traditional wine tasting techniques and do the whole color, all that fun stuff, smell. So don't put a full pour. Matter of fact, I probably, if anything, put a little too much in there. Put in, just a couple ounces so that you can lay your glass down and we can kind of look at color. So you guys can go ahead and do that, let it air out while I do some sort of background stuff to talk about and thank a couple of people. And then by then it'll open up and we'll kind of go into it. But wine spies, they're moderators. So it's hard for me to do this and questions. So when you guys have some questions, if you guys have questions, fire them off. They'll be on. They have moderator rights on my account, and they can answer the questions. And then I'll kind of look back at some point and try to catch up on a few things. So unlike when I do lives when I'm not doing a tasting, I'm not going to be able to get to every single question kind of as you do them. But I know that the wine spies will. So we'll be good. Hey, Agent Roan, how are you? We got the whole Wine Spies crew joining. So speaking of them, I just want to start out and say, when you guys all challenge me to do these and actually make these sort of formal, they're not formal, informal formal tastings or real life tastings and do real life things, it would have been really hard for me to do these without some great partners. And the Wine Spies have been phenomenal. And I think this is the second or third one we've done together. But anyway, this one was exceptional. We talked and they said, let's just do something really wonderful and a great deal for your followers. And, if you guys are taking advantage of this, I hope you all did. I mean, to do this wine for $1, just to introduce you. And again, part of it was for them to get to know you so you guys get to know Wine Spies and how the process works. But I just thank them so much for helping logistically coordinate getting these tastings together with me and put these offers out for all of you. I was looking at the drink website to get information over the last week to make sure that I had done some of my homework on this winery. And again, I'll talk about that. But this is the 2016. I mean, if you go to their website, and I encourage you to do it afterwards, Drinks, DRNK, their website, the 2017, now this is, they call the Cavers Quick Cuvée. The Cuvée Caver, they don't really make this one anymore. They make, in 17, they did a reverse, they called it Cuvée. It's $70 a bottle on their website. So it's pretty ridiculous that they did this for us for $1. So I thank them for doing that, but it's not just that. I thank them for, again, hopefully you've kind of all experienced them. Their approach to wine is exactly like mine is. It's accessibility. It's every day I get an email from them, and it's not a wine club. It's I get an email from them, and it talks about a wine, but it's all educational based. It's like, do you want this wine? And you can say yes or no, or you don't have to say yes or no. You just don't answer, or you order. And I just love the way that it's always geared towards, oh, we have this unique wine, or we've got this wine we found, or this deal we found, or here's something we thought you might enjoy, and it has all the background in it. So as you bought this, a lot of what we're going to talk about today was already in their write-up. So I was challenged trying to find different things to talk about that wasn't already in their educational thing. So hopefully I got some of those pulled up and discovered. But again, the way that they approach it is just wonderful. I'm going to talk about them probably a couple other times before we get off here, talk about how their locker thing works and all that. Again, it's not a club. There's no commitment. And that's kind of what I love. I pick and choose the wines I want. So they've been a great partner. And Wine Spies, I sincerely thank you for your support and helping me pick out great wines. You've introduced me to wines that I never would have thought to introduce this group to, and you guys have been great partners. So everybody, thanks to Wine Spies. Seriously, I really, really do appreciate it. So, okay, before we get into this wine, I want to do a little background on Pinot Noir. Now, if you're getting antsy and you go ahead and want to kind of smell, maybe take a sip, I'll let you do that now. Matter of fact, I'll do that. That's against all tasting rules, right, to do reverse, but. So I want to talk about Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir, what is Pinot Noir? So Pinot Noir is sort of one of the oldest grapes. It is one of the noble grapes from France. It's been around forever and ever and ever. Again, one of the oldest, if they take it all back, it's one of the oldest grapes that there is. And Pinot Noir came from France and particularly came from Burgundy. So the sort of educational thing there is if you're drinking a red Burgundy, you're drinking Pinot Noir. If you're drinking a white Burgundy, you're drinking Chardonnay. So the only exception really to that would be Gamay, which grows in Beaujolais. So if you're drinking a Pinot or a wine from Burgundy and it's red, it's Pinot Noir. And so that's where it all started. And then we kind of stole, when we came and started growing grapes over here in the States, we kind of took a lot of the French grapes. That's why most of the grapes that we're familiar with in the United States have French names. And the place that grows the most of it is in Oregon and California. So this happens to be a California wine, and we'll talk about where it comes from and Oregon. So if you think about really, New Zealand's making some great Pinot, but really when you think about Pinot Noir, it's Burgundy in France, Oregon, California. And then the other thing that I don't think people realize is Pinot Noir is one of the main grapes in the making of champagne. So if you've got a champagne that has some rosé to it, it's Pinot Noir. It's Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay, the only three grapes that really are permitted in champagne. So that's kind of the background on Pinot Noir. It's sort of one of those just wonderful, iconic grapes. And so really definitely a back to the basics kind of thing. So the word Pinot Noir actually comes from the word Pinot Noir means pine black. And so if you actually would see the clusters of a Pinot Noir, they're really tightly grouped, and they kind of look like a pine cone. So it makes sense the reason that it was named Pinot Noir way back when. And the unique thing about Pinot Noir is very thin skins, very hard to grow. And if we've seen the movie Sideways, that's really when Pinot took off. Was the movie Sideways is when they had the famous line that we're not drinking Merlot, and they were all about drinking Pinot Noir. Kind of changed the landscape of wine. Everybody started drinking Pinot Noir. I did as a side story, I did a whole episode on that once about the ironic thing about Sideways not liking the Merlot when his unicorn bottle of wine was a Cheval Blanc out of Bordeaux, which is made mostly of Merlot. So actually that year it was 100% Merlot. So it's kind of funny. The side story of that is, no pun intended to Sideways, the side story to that is, the reason he didn't want to drink Merlot, and it really didn't come out in the movie, is because that was his wife's favorite varietal. So he didn't want to drink Merlot. It's not that he didn't like Merlot. He just didn't want to drink. He was having problems with his wife. And so it was never supposed to be a knock on Merlot, but it ended up being a knock on Merlot, and Pinot Noir took off. So here's the difference. What we have here is a California Pinot Noir. So we'll start talking about this one. California Pinot Noir from Russian River Valley. So if you're not familiar with where Russian River is, it's in Sonoma. Sonoma is just north of San Francisco, and then there's a mountain range. So on the east side of the mountain range is where Napa Valley is, and then you go over the mountains, and then you're in Sonoma. So closer to the ocean, so it's a little cooler than Napa. So cooler grapes grow better in Sonoma than in Napa. So that's why Napa's Cabernet mostly, and Sonoma, and then southern Sonoma and Carneros is where Chardonnay is, and then Pinot Noir. So Russian River is sort of known as the iconic California destination of the best Pinot Noir made in California, for sure. And within Sonoma is this other little smaller appellation called Russian River, and that's where these come from. So the grapes in here were sourced from 4 different vineyards within the Russian River. And there's some very famous vineyards that they came from and they sourced the juice from that a lot of really high-end Pinot producers in California utilize, and you can read all about that on the Wine Spies short thing that they did. So what we have is a Russian River Pinot Noir coming from some very iconic vineyards within Russian River, and specifically within the Green Valley, which happens to be one of the coldest areas of that whole thing. So Pinot Noir kind of thrives in this cold. So I want to talk before we get into this, the difference between, because if you're used to drinking Pinot Noir, there is such a drastic difference between Oregon Pinot Noir and California Pinot Noir. And that's what I want to talk about before we start drinking this wine. Oregon Pinot Noir, it's much more cloudy up there. And the most famous area of Oregon where they grow Pinot Noir is the Willamette Valley. And the Willamette Valley, cooler, not as much sun as you get in California. So what happens is is that those grapes stay on that vine a few weeks longer than they do in California. The advantage, some people think, of having those grapes stay on the vine longer is that they pull more nutrients out of the ground because they're on the vine longer, and you get a more complex wine. That's what the Oregon Pinot people will tell you. The California people will say they love their Pinot Noir because it ripens quickly, it ripens more fruity, and you get sort of bigger fruit, bigger flavors. And then you got your French people that love their red Burgundy, and it's sort of the best of both worlds. Probably more similar to Oregon, if you want my opinion. And that's why I'm kind of excited to drink this one, because knowing this comes from that area of Sonoma that's probably a little colder than some of the other areas of California, I'm kind of expecting, and it's been, I think I tried this wine 8 months ago, last time I had it. I've not had it since I just sipped it there. I'm kind of expecting to get sort of almost a good balance between, I already by tasting it know it's got a little more California in it than Oregon, but I do think it's going to be a little more of sort of what you want out of a Pinot Noir, if that makes sense. So we will move on from there. So let's move on and let's talk about this wine, and let's do some taste, and then I'll go back because I want to taste this and I want to do the formal stuff. And I always take a white piece of paper here, right? I always like to lay it down. And so I always put this to have a white backdrop so that you can kind of look, and that's why I said don't put so much wine in there. And then as I go through this and we taste, I'm going to start, we're going to talk about this family and drink and sort of what they do, where that name came from, and some more about the wine, but I don't want to keep talking. I'd rather be enjoying the wine. It's hard to smell it. It's very aromatic, which is really cool. I think hopefully you guys have noticed that. So when you guys lay it down and look at this, what kind of color do you get? So I always like to start with what's the color palette? What is the, it's always distinctive. And a lot of times you always hear about people doing blind tastings and you go, how in the world can they know that that's not a Cabernet and that's a Pinot Noir? How do they know? Well, I can tell you right now, just looking at this right here, there is no way when I look at this wine that it is a Cabernet. So what do you see? So I'm waiting for some info before I sort of start giving you my opinion, because everything with wine, it's just an opinion. But there's traditional things about this particular varietal that really comes through on the color. So somebody give me some feedback. Looks like I'm getting. You guys are already doing the smoky. Mike, you guys are already ahead of me. What color? Let's go with color. Well, hopefully this thing's not delayed again. I mean, I'm getting, it's more like usually Pinot Noir, they say it's like a red apple color. And this is almost like it's darker than red apple. I always expect red apple color when I look at Pinot. This has a lot more going on, a little orange tint. That's very fair. And the other thing that you want to look at, if you were doing a tasting to try to figure out, is this an old wine or a new wine, you always look at the outside rim. And on the outside rim, if you start to see that color changing to sort of an orange, which is not what you said, Mike, I know, but if you had orange in the outside area, if you have an old wine that's 20 years old, 25 years old, you really start to see it changing and the colors start looking almost like an onion. Here, it's consistent color all the way to the rim, but it's definitely, but the whole thing does have a little orangish tint to it, but definitely more almost like cranberry. Anybody agree with that? Light but orange tint? Violet is good. I mean, this is more violet than I'm used to seeing a Pinot Noir. So it's got, and it doesn't surprise me, right? When I was talking about the difference in California and Oregon, California Pinots usually tend to have a little more color to them because, again, they more sun in California and Sonoma and Russian River, so they tend to ripen a lot earlier. So, but the thing, right away, look at this. If I didn't even smell or taste this, I would know. I definitely don't have a cab. I got some sort of lighter varietal. Pinot is such a light varietal, but I might be a little fooled because it's a little darker. And I know it's a relatively young wine because I don't see a lot of orange aging on the rim, on the outside rim there. It's very consistent in color. It gets almost even a little lighter and watery right there at the end. But I could definitely tell I've got some sort of lighter color varietal. Let's go with the nose. Yeah, ruby would be good. That's a good. I think cranberry is what I'm going to go with, but ruby and violet is. So when you do that, when you smell in the nose and really, you know, I got my big nose. I like getting in there. And I always challenge people. It's easy to get the fruit, right? Not easy, but it's easier to get the fruit. I always say, okay, give me the fruit, then give me some sort of vegetal or something other than fruit. Something that's earthy or it could be anything. I think one we did, it was like, I swear to God, I was smelling green peppers. I'm not getting it this time. So throw fruits out, the blackberry. It's interesting you get blackberry because I could get a little blackberry. I'm getting more of the like sort of raspberries. Definitely cherry, which is typical for Pinot. And one thing about Pinot is you don't tend to get a lot of black fruit, but there is definitely some black fruit in there, which is, I think, unique. And again, not uncommon for a California Pinot Noir. It usually has a little more color and a little more. See, I talked myself into the so what's the non-fruit characteristics? I think chocolate covered cherry. Look at you. So why do you think chocolate, Mike? Is that one of the Motley crew throwing that out there? I wonder, is it the chocolate because it's sweet, but it's more like is it more of a milk chocolate? I see what you're saying. You know, it's funny because in the descriptions they talk about mushroom. I'm not getting a whole lot of mushroom. I'm getting more like it's funny. You know when you're out in the woods right after a rain, and you're by like a stream and you get kind of that wet rock smell. I'm kind of getting that like an early spring wet rock smell. That's me. So I don't know if anybody else is getting it. Maraschino cherry. Yeah, that I Blue Dog wine, I think that's what I get. That is it. It's that sort of, that almost like candy apple cherry kind of thing going on, right? But I could be tucked in a cranberry juice but is anybody else getting that sort of wet rock minerality smell? Which I don't, I'm surprised because that's not a normal, might just be me. I do like chocolate covered cherry. I love to, it's funny, I probably spend as much time smelling wine as I do drinking wine. First of all, that's probably healthier for me, but I think the other reason you do that is your taste buds can only do so much, but your nose has so many different glands that pick things up, and I think that's one of the really wonderful things about drinking wine. All right, so enough sniffy stuff. I'll tell you what, it's almost like I don't want to drink it because it keeps opening up for me. The more I add air to this, just the more that I'm getting. So it's pretty cool. Anybody else got any thoughts or smells that they're getting? It's interesting. All right, time to take a sip. Now you notice, and I did that for a reason, I swished around. And one of the reasons I like to do that in one of my first sips is that if you do that, so everybody take a sip like I did, swish it around before you swallow it. And that is one of the easiest things in a taste test that you can get or that your body will react to is the acid. And if you swish that around like I did, you should just feel those saliva. As soon as you swallow, you will feel those saliva glands just shooting saliva. And the more it starts reacting like that, you know you have a high acid wine. So everybody do that and tell me, because when I did that, I absolutely I can tell. I know Pinot Noir is a high acid wine. So it's kind of easy when you know the trick and you know what you're drinking and you know what you're supposed to get. But just to train your palate of how that works, I'm going to do it again. I usually try to kind of inhale. There's a trick people do, inhaling out your nose. I guess I'm just so used to doing it, I just feel it. But I mean, even as I started to try to talk there, my saliva glands were filling my mouth up and I couldn't do it. And that's that's indicative of a high acid wine. And that, you start talking about food pairings with a high acid wine. High acid wine goes with high acid. So this is the kind of wine that could go with we'll talk about food pairings later, but this is one of those wines that just could really go with a really good high acid food. Lots of acid in your food. So the other thing is you'll notice, do you notice, one of the things I always look for is acid's easy to detect, is let's detect tannins. Tannins are what's caused by the skin of the grape. We talked about earlier, I said Pinot Noir is a thin-skinned grape. So unlike a Cabernet or some other wines that you have, my lips are not sticking to my teeth, which tells me I don't have a lot of tannins in here. I know I don't have a lot of tannins in here because I'm drinking a Pinot Noir, and Pinot Noir does not have a lot of tannins because tannins come from the skin. Pinot Noir is a thin-skinned grape, not a lot of tannins. So I don't know about you guys, but I get the full acid, that full saliva thing going on in my mouth, but I'm not getting that sticky mouth thing. And that's also, you think about pairings, those big tannins are great for a big, juicy, fatty steak. This wine would not go great with a big, fatty, juicy steak. So we know it's high acid, low tannin, and then on the palate, is there anything you're picking up on the palate that you didn't get out of the nose? Pie crust. A little peppery. Interesting. That's, usually peppery comes from Syrah, but I see what you're saying. I got a little spice, a little something going on there. But it really reinforces the smells I had with the cherries. Yeah, Blue Dog wine, you told me I should go get it. I should have had a thing of those here. I don't have any in my house, but it'd be interesting to throw one of those, I think I say that right, maraschino cherries in there with it, because that's exactly what this tastes like. I'll tell you what, Mike, this would pair really well with is some really good sort of milk chocolate. You were talking about the chocolate cherry, chocolate covered cherry. If you had some it wouldn't taste great with like bitter dark chocolate, I don't think. It would taste really good with some good milk chocolate. So pretty interesting. Agreed. Mike, what are you guys pairing it with right now? I'm curious. What is the group pairing this with so that I know? All right, so I'm going to fill it up a little more, and then I'm going to sort of talk about, I just want to see if anybody has anything else. It's to me, this is sort of what I always feel like that I get when I drink California Pinot Noir. The fruit flavors are not overpower, but definitely are so more pronounced than if I was drinking what I would expect from a Burgundy or Oregon. If I had a Burgundy or Oregon, a lot of those vegetal and mineralities and mineral flavors and tastes and earthy things tend to come out. California, I just rarely get that. I usually get these really big, fruity Pinot Noirs. And, there's so many people that love California, and there's so many people that love Oregon. Neither one's wrong or right. It's whatever you like. But it's pretty crazy. Shrimp pasta. And we got dessert, too. This would go great with I don't know if shrimp pasta, would that go, maybe a little red sauce in the shrimp pasta, you'll be okay if you're just doing it with, again, the great thing, somebody said to me the other day, and it has stuck with me, it's one of my new little things I love to talk about in wines, is when you have a high acid wine, high acid wines go with high acid foods. And so sort of a great general rule is if the food you're eating, if you could pour a lemon over it, so like think about chicken marsala or just any dish that you would squeeze a lemon over, that tends to go, that's again high acid, that tends to go great with high acid wine. So always keep that in mind. High acid goes with high acid, and so any food that you would squeeze a lemon over and eat is always a good pairing for any high acid red or high acid white, is just sort of a good general rule. The lasagna. This would go nice with lasagna. I don't know if I had a lighter Pinot Noir from maybe Oregon. Probably not a great pairing with lasagna because, you know, lasagna is always classic with Sangiovese and some of those great Italian wines. But this one's strong enough and has enough fruit that I think it would go just fine with lasagna. That's a good wine. James Suckling, by the way, gave this wine a 92. So let's talk about drink while we're enjoying the wine. So now that I got you guys finally doing it. So it's crazy. One of the fun things about doing this, and again, I'll thank the Wine Spice for kind of putting this together, but one of the things I've enjoyed as I've gotten into wines is drinking wines that you can't just go and buy at the grocery store. And so if you looked on the back of your bottle, so if you have your bottle, spin it around, there was only 575 cases of this wine made in the whole world. Once that was it, that was it. So none of this, I can tell you right now, none of this wine got into your local grocery store or local wine shop. They just didn't have enough of it. So it went probably to people that were in their wine list, and I'm guessing, I don't know this for sure, I'm guessing that that the Wine Spice saw an opportunity and bought a bunch of it. And I'm glad they did. And it's just not the kind of wine that you could get. So one of the dangers with that is then if you love the wine, it's not like your, and I won't name any big, you know, it's not your Mayakama Pinot Noir where you can go to the grocery store and get as much of it as you want, because it's going to be gone when the 575 cases are gone, they're gone. And I always find that really fun. And one of my favorite things about drinking, you know, what we call small lot or small production wines. And this just is absolutely fits completely as the definition of a small production wine. So it's kind of fun to be able to do this. And again, don't fall in love with it because you'll never be able to get much more of it. Though I think the Wine Spice told me they have a little more of it. We'll talk about that at the end. I think they bought enough of it for this that they still have some if somebody wants some. So on the back, you'll also notice DRNK, and they call it drink and put this little INK in there. So where that name came from is it's the initials of the four owners, and the four owners are actually a husband and wife team and the parents of the wife. And so it's Dale, Ryan, Nancy, and Katie. And Ryan is the winemaker, the R, and Ryan Cundy is fifth generation. If you've been around wine, that Cundy name is pretty well known. They've got a pretty big enterprise, and it's kind of cool to see Ryan off sort of doing his own brand with his wife and his in-laws. And on the back here, it's actually kind of cool. They actually have the 4 famous vineyards within Russian River that these grapes are sourced from. And it's kind of unusual to do this, but again, with a small production wine like this, it doesn't surprise me that they have it down to know, you know, exactly 8% of this wine came from the Hallberg vineyard of Russian River. So pretty cool. It's got even Ryan's name on there. But again, very low production and very detailed on what you get on the back, which is pretty cool. They are, what did I kind of talked about the expense of the expense of the wines that they have that they're selling now. Oh yeah, a little more about this wine. So again, I said it came from Green Valley and Russian River, which is a specific area from those 4 vineyards. 14.3% alcohol, and it was aged 30 for 11 months in 30% new French oak, and we'll talk about what that means. It's interesting because I now I got in my head, I taste the oak. I know there's some oak on it, but the oak definitely is subtle, and I would actually probably expect a little more oak with 30% new, or that I would smell a little bit more. So what does 30% new French oak means? That's a balance of how much the winemaker wants to add in oak flavors, and they decide. So there's 2 things you can do. There's 3 things you can do. You use new French, new American oak, or you use neutral oak. Neutral oak is oak that's been used in previous years. So when it says 30% new French oak, that means 70% of the time as it was aging, they were putting this in neutral barrels. I'm guessing they probably keep their older French oak barrels to do that. But so the difference between neutral and new is that new means that they haven't been used before, or they've been used a year, and that imparts a lot of the flavors. And then once that barrel's been used a couple of years, it now becomes neutral because it's already, the flavors have been sucked out of it, so it doesn't really add too much more to the wine. So the question is, why wouldn't you do 100%? Well, you do 100%, you get too much oak flavor. So there's always a balance of the winemaker, in this case, Ryan, decided that he wanted this wine to spend 11 months, but only use 30% new oak. So that's where that comes from. I have a trick I did, and I'll have to do it when I get done with this glass. Somebody told me a long time ago to try to pull out the oak when you can't. It's harder to detect oak when you've got the alcohol of the wine and the flavors of the wine. It's easier to detect oak when you have an empty wine glass and you're just smelling sort of the residual juice at the bottom. So do you know why they named it DRNK? Yep. So I think I just answered that. I'm going to go in here. Do we know? Yes. Why they? Yeah. So it's their initials: Dale, Ryan, Nancy, Katie. And then they made this little creative eye kind of here in the middle here. But if you wanted to look them up, you would look at, I think it's drnkwine.com. It comes up pretty easily, and you can see it. The label, the one thing you will notice if you go to this 2017, which is what they're selling on their company website, on the winery's website, is 2017, and you will notice they completely did away with this label. And it's funny. I was talking to Agent Shannon at Wine Spies. I said, I like this label. I think this is creative. The new label they have, I'm not as big a fan of it, but it's up to them how they want to make their labels. But I thought this was a pretty cool, creative way they did it. Pretty easy thing, pretty catchy drink. And again, the new label, I'll let you guys go out to their website and see what you think. I thought this was a pretty cool way to. I like this label. I thought it was cool, and I already made comments of it. It's funny. Then they put a side label again. You love small production, right? You don't just get two labels. You get kind of weird things, right? You get the front label, then you get this kind of side label, which is this actual wine, which tells you they use this label for that, and then the back has sort of all that little personal information about how many they produced. So. Always kind of like that. But, it's got their website on the back here, drnkwines.com. So that's why they named it drink. Kind of a catchy little thing for their names. All right, give me some thoughts, feedback. Let me know if you guys like this wine. I personally think this is fantastic wine. I'm not a huge Pinot Noir fan. I like my Cabernets more, and I like my Pinots, I like my Rhone, but this is a Pinot I can drink because it's got more flavor than your typical regular Pinot Noir. I think it's, what I say Suckling gave it. Yeah, James Suckling gave it 92. The other thing you'll notice about Pinot Noirs, if you fall in love with them, and maybe why I've tried not to fall in love with them on purpose, is it's hard to find good Pinot Noirs under $50. Because the grape is so hard to grow. It is so sought after because of sideways and various other reasons. And I think it's a good, it's funny because the true Pinot drinkers will hate this when I say it, but it is if there was a first red you'd go to, I think you would probably go to a light Pinot Noir before you'd start getting into the really heavy tannic Cabernets. But I think Pinot Noir drinkers take offense to that to make it seem like it's a gateway wine to Cabernet, when it's definitely not. No, it's as complex. Pinot Noirs from various areas can be some of the most complex and most expensive wines you can drink for sure. So Mike, was it a 6 for 6? Loved it. Let's hear the ratings. You guys have done these a few. Where does this compare? Let's compare this with take a vote of the 6. Let's compare this with the Etna Rosso from last time. If anybody had it, if all 6 were there. Or wait, you didn't do that one. Compare this one with the Valdegay we did. I think you missed last time. If that group was with the Valdegay, do you like this better or worse than the Valdegay we had? I'm just curious. I always like doing these comparisons. Better. Yeah, the Valdegay is not one that I could drink all the time. I just thought it was such a unique varietal that I really, really enjoyed it. So hey, wine spies, I'm going to talk about you guys in a little bit. Anything else you guys want to add on this wine? Anything I missed that you guys know about this wine that I don't? Since you guys are the ones that bought it and let us use it. It's such a crazy deal. Where's Wine with Aaron? He's always the favorite one to it. Love the Rioja. Oh yeah. Yeah, I did. That's right. I did that one with Wine Spice too. Rioja. That's where I got my name, Agent Rioja. I love Rioja. That's more definitely my wheelhouse. Days of Wine. They allow Pinot Nero in the Etna area. Oh, is that a question? You know, and actually that's kind of an interesting. Pinot Nero is what they call Pinot Noir in Italy. So just sort of a little. If you're ever in a store, and you don't see it very often, where I work, we've only got a couple of Pinot Neros. That's just the Italians like to be. It's like the difference between Pinot Grigio and Pinot Gris. And to my knowledge, I'm sure they do grow some in the Etna area, but Etna Rosa is what is it? Nerello Marsh. I forget my tasting last time that we had. I don't think that's one of the big grapes in Sicily at all. To answer your question, but Pinot Nero is Pinot Grigio. Nerello Mascalese is the main grape in Etna Rosa. Rosso, if somebody wants to do it. Nothing to add. Our team always loves a great Pinot. You tasted some good Grand Reservas today? Some old ones. So when you do, that's one thing, Blue Dog Wine. It would be really fun to do that. One of the things that you can't really do when you're trying to get wine that people can access that is new, because it's hard. If I said, oh, we're going to all get a bunch of go out and try to buy a 1973 Burgundy. First of all, we couldn't. I don't like it's hard for me to afford, and second of all, it's you can only find so much of it. So it's hard to do wine tastings unless you're together with people drinking out of a special library wine or something. But I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I could, if anybody wants to throw some things in, I think what I'm going to do next month, just to give you guys a heads up, a couple of my followers from Canada really want me to. They're wanting me to find a wine that they can get in Canada. So I'm going to go. I think what we're going to do is do a red Bordeaux. And the reason I want to do that is, again, back to the educational thing. I'm doing a live tasting here in a week where I'm with about 30 people. I'm doing a kind of talking about left bank versus right bank Bordeaux's and the differences and what a white Bordeaux is. And we're tasting 4 different wines. And I think it would be fun to do an educational thing on Bordeaux wines. Number one, they're fantastic. And 2, I think there's just so much education there to get people thinking about Bordeaux. So just if you want a heads up on what wine I'm going to do next, I'm going to pick a Bordeaux for us to do and try to find one that's reasonably affordable. And my 2 Canadian followers that usually come to this tasting are going to be in New York City in a couple of weeks. So I told them I'd try to find one that they could pick up in New York because they have a hard time getting certain wines we do up in Canada. So anyway, all right, here's my trick I like to do. So this glass is almost over. So it'll be interesting to see if I get it from this one, because it's one of my best ways to smell oak. Is you don't have the wine. Now I got just a little bit of juice in here, so I don't have a lot of alcohol. I don't have a lot of fruit from the wine interfering with my nose. And I just get in there. And I find that is the easiest way, and I don't get a lot of it in this. So you'll have to try this. I think I've done this with you guys before. Try this after you've had a big, heavy Cabernet or a big, heavy wine you know's got heavy oak. And I smell a little in there, a little vanilla. It usually kind of presents itself in, think about like when you smelled wood before you threw it on the fire, or a lot of times it comes out as sort of a vanilla smell. And I get more of the vanilla smell, but I don't get, it's not overpowering. But just sort of a fun thing to do when you're tasting wines to figure out, gee, how much oak was on there if you don't taste a lot of oak. That's a trick. Somebody, a taster that I knew really well and really respected their educational stuff taught me to do. And I've always really enjoyed that. So we're almost on bottle 3. I think Wine Spice. How much more do you guys have more of this that people want to order more of? I know you're not going to do the dollar deal. I know you love my followers, but and they appreciate you guys. But if somebody wanted to get some more of this, what's the cost out on the website right now? I honestly don't know. What's the cost if they went back in and just wanted to buy more? God, it's so crazy. That one was in my glass so long that now I'm getting that what's been in the bottle tasted totally different from what was in my glass. Yeah, so what's the retail if they wanted to go get it from you guys? And then I'm going to talk about kind of the deal. So if you're not familiar with Wine Spies, and hopefully you got familiar, if you're just have joined in here just to kind of listen to me ramble on about wine, one of the coolest things I really like, probably my favorite thing, so you can share this with your marketing department, is it's every day, as I said, I get this sort of email that says, oh, we have this wine, check it out. If you want it, click here. And I don't have to buy, like if I only want to buy one bottle of that, it goes into my locker. And then when I fill my locker up with 12 bottles, it ships. And then it ships for free because you don't, they just give it, if you buy a whole case, you don't have to, it saves on the shipping costs. And I just love that because a lot of times I don't want to buy, a lot of the stuff they have, it's great stuff. And I maybe only want two of this one or 3 of this one or 1 of those. And then I can get a shipment of 12 totally different bottles of wine from all over different places. And I've got the really cool write-up. I mean, I'm using one of the write-ups that they had for this wine. And I just think it's the perfect way to order and buy wine. And you guys have asked me a million times, what's a good, do you recommend any wine clubs or wine ordering services? I personally there's 3 ways I get my wine in life. I order directly from vineyards or wineries that I know, and I'm members of their club. I do work at a winery, so I get a lot of wines, or a winery. I do work at a wine shop, so I get a lot of wine that way, and I'll buy retail stuff from there. And I love people supporting their local wine shops because, like mine, for instance, the owner only has 2 wine shops, so it's a small family-owned winery or wine shop. And the Wine Spies, and I just love what they do because it's a mix and match. If I don't want to buy something for 2 or 3 months, I just don't buy it, and they don't put it in my locker. I just ignore their emails. But I can tell you, I look at their emails every day because it's, I probably don't want to give them credit for this, but I will. A lot of times they'll send me a wine of the day and it'll make me think, oh, that'd be a good episode. Because that's a wine that probably people don't like or are not familiar with, and we could do an educational video about it. So, big fan of the way they do it up there, and I love that it's not a commitment and you can just buy what you want, and they kind of hold it for you until you get it. So, they know that they've sent me quite a few lockers over the years. I think I'm just going through my notes to make sure I covered everything I wanted to do. Russian River, thin skin, sideways. Yeah, I do think that's the fascinating thing about Pinot Noir. It's probably, there's a few grapes that I talk about the differences, and definitely the differences between California Pinot Noir and Oregon Pinot Noir is just so drastically different. It's almost like you're drinking a different grape at times. All right, question and answer time. Paige is my daughter. Wine with Aaron. Oh, you didn't get it in time. That'll teach you, Aaron. Well, you can you can enjoy this one because I know you've been on a few of them. So sorry you're late as well. You're always one of the best people to ask questions, and you'll have to try it. It's pretty good. I think we all agree. It's pretty good Pinot Noir. So what are you drinking in you got studying going on, so you couldn't make the live? So does anybody have any questions? Anything you want me to answer? We can just go to general wine questions. I still have this. I do have to work at 9, so I'm not going to drink this whole bottle tonight. I have to work at 9 a.m. at the wine shop. I like they have drink in the, I don't know if you guys noticed that. They put again, small production wineries just tend to do little, sort of nice little things. I guess when you're selling your wines for $50 a bottle, you can afford to do a couple little kind of cool things. But I thought that was pretty neat. Pretty neat. Don't mind me, just learning. Johnny G, how are you? You're exploded a little bit. I had 4 bottles on my locker, but filled it up and sent it out a little too late. Oh, have exams, labs. You tough student. You know what I had? And it's funny because I did an episode on it, Blue Dog Wine. We did Beaujolais, and actually my daughter Paige was up. She goes to South Carolina. She was up with the family, and she goes, "I don't like this, Dad." I go, "Yeah." I go, "I know you're supposed to do Beaujolais with turkey dinner, but I can tell you right now, a good Pinot Noir like this is much more enjoyable to me than Beaujolais. Nothing against Gamay." But it's just it's like a jammy grape to me or something. I don't know. What do you think? Do you do turkey with, do you do turkey? What do you do with your Thanksgiving turkey? The other thing I realized when I was doing those episodes, if you look at the demographics of my followers, only about 85% of them are in the United States. And so I got quite a few in Canada and England. I was thinking, they probably don't celebrate. Well, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving. And, I had an idea. I was thinking about episodes, Blue Dog Wine, of what I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do at the end of the year is the best white and best red that I have had this year. And I think that would just be a fun, I don't know, it will mean nothing to anybody but me, but it's my channel, so maybe I'll just do what I want to do. Love me some Beaujolais. I'll tell you, the Beaujolais Nouveau, where I work, we got in 3 of them. We got in 2 of the George DeBuff, and I do not get Beaujolais Nouveau. It is just like, I feel like I'm drinking just grape juice with it just doesn't have anything for me. I do not like Beaujolais Nouveau. Beaujolais, I'm a little bit better, but we normally we get, where I work, we get lots of it, and with the supply chain issues, a lot of them were telling us, "Oh, we'll get you your shipment, but you'll get it at the end of December." And every one of those we turned down and said, "We're not taking it then," because we knew if we got it, we wouldn't be able to sell it. Because that's Beaujolais Nouveau is one of those things. It's like only popular during Thanksgiving and then just absolutely dies out. So, any special wines for the I will whenever, especially my daughter that's on here, when she's a great person to drink wine with. She's got a great palate for a young woman, and I absolutely love. Oh, hi, and I absolutely. I love opening nice bottles with her. Otherwise, it's just me getting in my cellar, and that's no fun for anybody. Yeah, the story, Wine with Aaron, I don't know if you saw my episode. I did an episode just 2 episodes ago about the whole Beaujolais Nouveau. I think it's a brilliant marketing idea. I agree with you. I think it's just the coolest story that there is. I think it's a really neat, not only is it neat, it's a unique thing that they do, right? And Gamay, the whole story of that is just so funny, right? It's almost like Gamay was the lesser grape that Burgundy said, well, we'll just let you grow that down there in southern Burgundy, and we'll grow the really good Pinot Noir up here, but you guys just go take your Gamay grape and do there. And Beaujolais made a really cool kind of place for themselves in the wine community for sure. So, hi, I'm doing well. So we're doing wine questions now. The main tasting I want to do is kind of over, but we're just doing tasting and answering some wine questions. And Wine Spies are on if you got any questions for the Wine Spies. I am not a somm. I'm just an old guy that likes to drink wine. So, one of the things to pass that, I think is you have to do service, and I'm not going to go work in the service industry to do that. There's other wine certifications you can get that I've been playing around with whether I want to do them or not. I did not expect, when I kind of started this channel, I just thought I would do like quick educational stuff, just if nothing else to kind of relearn wine again, because I've been collecting wine for almost 30 years. So I just did it really for that, and then it kind of took off, and people have been very responsive, and it's been awesome. How will you store that half bottle or finish it? I'm not going to finish it tonight because I have to work. So my rule, when I open a bottle of wine, I always will, especially if it's a good bottle, I will actually, believe it or not, was that Mike that answered this? I will set this on the counter, probably not even, since I've had it without the cork, I might put the cork in it, and I will drink the rest of it tomorrow night. And I guarantee you, especially this wine, I can tell you right now, I mean, it's 16, so it's good, but most wines, particularly new wines or heavy tannic wines, they'll taste way better the next day. So I will save this two glasses. I'll drink it tomorrow night. But I think once you go past 24 hours, it really starts to oxidize badly, and it's too good of a wine, in my opinion, to let that happen. So I will. It'll literally just sit like this on a bar in my house, and I'll drink the rest of it tomorrow. It'll taste great. I know a lot of people think you can put it in the fridge and delay that. It's not worth it to me. But 24 hours later, most wines taste fantastic. Usually better than when you opened it. So hope that answers your question, Mike. So awesome, thanks. Yep. Any other fun questions? Any wine questions? Oh, I didn't answer your question, Blue Dog Wine. My favorite wine this year, a couple of them. I had one, and I liked it so much that I ran. It's funny, it just came today. I had not had it. I was in Napa. I went to Spring Mountain. Do you guys know anybody up at Spring Mountain, the old Falcon Crest place? Anyway, I was drinking some of their library wines, and their 2010 Cabernet is the best Cabernet I've not only had this year, probably in years. And I liked it so much, I ordered a 6-pack, and it showed up at my house today. So the 2010 Cabernet Spring Mountain was fantastic, and my favorite white completely threw me off. And we not only tasted it when I was in Mount Veeder. Actually, when I was out, that's when I met Agent Shannon for the first time. We went to Mayakama, and I went to Mayakama with the thoughts I was going to drink the best Cabernet, in the valley, and I ended up drinking their Chardonnay, and it absolutely blew my socks off. It was the best Chardonnay I have had. I might say ever. It was the 2019 Mayakama Chardonnay, and the beautiful thing that Mayakama does, as you guys I'm sure know, is it's all about even their Cabernet is low alcohol. I mean, they're trying to copy kind of what they do in Bordeaux, and their Chardonnay was no mallow, light oak. I mean, it was just, I thought I was drinking a fantastic white Burgundy. Again, it's $50 a bottle, current vintage, but it was absolutely fantastic. So I'm curious what you guys drink, probably more than I do. So are there any reds less likely to give you a headache? First of all, I want to focus on this winter. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. Are there any red? Yeah, anybody else? Yeah, I'll let other people answer that. Some of you in Wine with Aaron or Mike, are there any varietals or any fun things that you guys would like? Hey, that would be a cool tasting, or you just want us to pick or want me to pick? Are there any reds less likely to give you a headache? There's the whole fallacy that it's from the sulfates. It's not. There are some really bad additives that high production wines add that will probably contribute to the headache, but sulfites are not one of them. Sulfites are natural in wine. As a matter of fact, there's more sulfites in a glass of orange juice than there is in a glass of wine. So if orange juice doesn't give you a headache, it's not the sulfites. But I think all the additives and crap that they add in probably impacts it. So there's, in my opinion, two ways you can go. I'll let Wine Spies tell me if they agree. If there are certain additives that cause you problems, stop drinking mass-produced crappy wine. Start drinking either wines from overseas, because they don't add a lot, and you can get some decent reds for reasonable prices, or drink more high-quality wines, or do your research and figure out which ones. I'm gonna bet almost anything. Again, I don't have the spec sheet on this one, but I can bet you that there's very little intervention in this wine, or very little additives into this. I'm sure they added a little sulfites so that it'll age, but it's not the you don't make a small production wine like this and add in a bunch of crappy additives. The other trick that you can do, that I have a friend that swears by this, and I'm just never disciplined enough, but he drinks a glass of wine, and then he fills it all the way up after he drinks a 5-ounce pour of wine, and he drinks an entire full glass of regular water. And I've done that with him before, and I never get headaches when I'm always hydrating that much, because I think you're getting the headache from just being, from dehydration. But there is a chance at some of those things. Now, there is a small percentage of the population that is addicted to sulfites, but if you were one of those people, you would know, because you wouldn't be able to drink, or you wouldn't be able to eat French fries or drink orange juice, because there's more in that. So hopefully that answers your question on that. There's some histamines, I know, people that histamines, I've heard can cause some things, and there's some low histamine wines. At our shop we sell one that's from Italy that advertises as a low histamine wine, so I don't even know what they do to make it that, but it's in our organic section. But just drink a lot of water, and don't drink 2 bottles of wine, and drink lots of water. And usually, in most cases, I find that I don't get a headache. So anyway, you need to be on the lookout. I will look back at your recap. I have them. There you go. Oh, wait, I just got a whole bunch of stuff coming in, so hold on. I'll have to look back at your recap. Yes, it does help. When you do I totally think you do the wine. The wine and water works great. Wine Spice, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Wine Spice. That's a good, thanks for calling them out. Yeah, keep track of what gives you headaches and stuff. You'll see I'm pretty careful of not bashing certain brands, but there, the brands that are adding in crap. So, hello. So you like the lesser known common varietals? Yeah, so Aaron, I've been trying to do those. So if you think about it again, we did 3 really, really unusual varietals. This was I thought Bordeaux. That's why I want to do Bordeaux next. But we're going to map them out. I think I love working with Wine Spies. I think I told them I'm probably going to do at least one every other month with them. Again, I'm just trying to satisfy the Canadian people who can't order, because a lot of wine companies can't ship outside the United States. But we'll figure something out. But thanks, Aaron. That's good. That's good feedback for me. I like doing that for a couple of reasons. I like doing that because it's fun. I get to learn, because I start doing research it was funny when we did the Valdegay, we were arguing amongst ourselves. Is it Valdegay? Is it Valdegay? How do you pronounce it? And it was kind of fun having the winemaker actually jump on and correcting us. But J. Lore makes one, and if you go to J. Lore's website, they say it's Valdegay or Valdegay. They actually kind of add an extra syllable, and I know that that's not right, which is kind of funny to me. Varietal from Rhone Valley would be great. Mike, Agent Rhone would love that. And if you remember, Mike, or maybe you don't, Aaron, the first tasting I ever did was a Cinquom Côte de Rhone. 100% Syrah. Unusual for a Côte de Rhone to be 100% Syrah. It's still to this day one of my favorite go-to wines. It's like $15.90. I think where I work, we sell for $15.99 a bottle, and I would put that Rhone wine up against anybody. So, Mike, go back We should do like a Chateauneuf de Pape or something really fun. That would be a good one to do. Maybe we'll have the Wine Spice find a good, because we don't have to lower ourselves to just plain old regular Côte d'Aron. Let's go big. Let's go Chateauneuf de Pape or Gigondas or something crazy. But I'm a huge fan of Rhone wines. Love Syrah. I love Northern Rhone wines, which are Syrah and yeah. So Mike, that you wouldn't have to twist my arm. I think that's probably why I did that in my first tasting. So Mayakama is awesome. Paige, it was so good, wasn't it? That was a cool tour too. Ha! How does Mayakama compare to your trusty Gurgich? I think, Aaron, that's probably why I like it so much, because Mike Gurgich has done the same thing, right? Oh shoot, I gotta go back. I just got a whole bunch of stuff in here. Where was that? Where was Aaron? I gotta go back to where that was. So while I try to find where, so there it is. Oh, good. Okay, he's talking about Newton Unfiltered. Let's do a CDP tasting. That would be fun. Great value, Rhone wines. All right, so I'm going to go back to yours because I know I saw it, Aaron. I can't find what the exact question is. Oh, there it was, Gurgich. It's so, and that's probably why I love it so much. God, my wife loves the big, if she could drink Rombauer all day, Kendall Jackson or Rombauer, the big malolactic fermentation. And by the way, that's going to be an upcoming episode because it's so hard when you work at a wine shop, and I know the Wine Spice can appreciate this. Chardonnay has two very distinctive styles of Chardonnay, way more so than Northern and Southern or California versus Oregon Pinot Noir. When you add malolactic fermentation, you get that huge creamy. I mean, Kendall Jackson, I'll still swear to God, does it better than anybody else for under $20. And if you want to spend a lot of money, you go get Rombauer. That malolactic fermentation gives it that really creamy, buttery, smooth, the La Crema taste. Then when you don't do malolactic fermentation, you get the crisp white Burgundy taste. And Mayakama does no mallow, and Gurgich has never done mallow. So it probably is the reason that I love Mayakama so much, because it's done in the same style that Mike Gurgich does. That no mallow, kind of a little bit of oak. Mike uses, I think, a little more oak than Mayakama does, but I just think that it blows my mind. This is when I realized that I think I probably have a different palate than sort of the masses, because I could tell you, people love that big malolactic fermented Chardonnay, and I appreciate it. Look, I think Rombauer does a fantastic job. It's a great wine, but there is no way, if you gave me the option of doing a Mayakama Chardonnay and a Rombauer, and they're in that same price point, I would always pick the Mayakamas every time, or I would pick the Gurgich Chardonnay every single time, or I'd pick a good white Burgundy every single time. I just love that. I just love that genuine taste. So sorry, Aaron, but you definitely hit a point with me on mallow. But I'm going to do a whole episode on that, because I don't think that people understand what that means. You go to the winery and they go, oh, we do malolactic fermentation. I don't think people understand what that is. So I think that would be a good educational video, because I think that's a mainstream topic more than like a wine geek topic. So I will be doing an episode on that. So Mike wants to know, Wine Spice, how much the DRNK now is for a case. Oh, how do you compare the big shards of Napa to the white Burgundy? Aaron, I think that's a great question. I did an episode way back on Chablis, And I will tell you, I think there's a big, big, big difference. It's so funny that Chablis is part of Burgundy because Chablis is so far north. It's not even connected to the rest of Burgundy, right? It's so far north. You get up there in Chablis and you're in that like oyster shell, that used to be an ocean. So the minerality that you get in a Chablis is so unusual. If I did my top 5 favorite white wines I had this year, I had a Premier Cru Chablis, and it was just blew my socks off how great it was. But I think the minerality you get in a Chablis is way different than a regular white Burgundy. So I think the regular white Burgundy is more like Mayakama's. I think when you get up in that Chablis, which one would I rather have? I probably would rather have a traditional white Burgundy because I've had Chablis where the minerality kind of ruins the fruit, if that makes sense. But a really well-made Chablis, just unbelievably fantastic. So, as I was mentioned, you kind of, okay. So, hey, Wine Spies, Mike want to know what's how much is it per bottle for the, can you guys help me out on that? Maybe you already answered him. What's the per bottle cost on drink, or if he wants a case of it, how much would it be? Hey, Jacques, what's up, man? I'm on TikTok doing most of it. I'm about done. So hope all's well. I was trying to get in touch with you the other day, so hope things are well. So I'm answering some Instagram stuff. So any other questions? I keep answering wine questions all night. I got nothing else to do. Just got to go to work, and I'm not drinking any more than this. That's not. Mike, I don't know if we're going to get an answer. I don't know if they're still on. Maybe she took off. I don't know. Or maybe she can answer you, or I'll follow up and make sure I message you and let you know. Oh, there it is. Mike. Mike answered. You see, Blue Dog answered you. Sorry. All right. Any other questions before we wrap things up today? Oh, wait. Somebody just, Rich Chip, what was your recently discovered Barolo? Any suggestions? Thank you. Barolo. So we could do so Barolo is Piedmont, right? Nebbiolo grape. And I think I've done at least one episode where I've alluded to Piedmont wines and Nebbiolo. Boy, do you want to talk about tannic wines? So Barolos are great. You just got to lay them down for a while. So there's some really fun, I know the Wine Spice have sent out a couple of either Nebbiolo-based grapes. So you can, like a Barbaresco would be another way you could go. But anything up there in that area, just the Barolos are always so expensive. But I tend to like, I'm more of a Brunello fan than I am a Barolo fan. So I like more of the wines from Tuscany. I just like the Sangiovese more than I like Nebbiolo. But, you kind of have your, we're like trying to figure out how not to, you're trying to figure out, you're trying to argue between who should be first or second in the country in college basketball, right? It's, there's plenty of good teams to pick from, and at some point it's just personal preference. But it's Barolo is just such an iconic representation of the Nebbiolo grape. It's just, it doesn't have mainstream appeal because Barolo is meant to be aged. It's one of those wines. You're supposed to buy it and wait 10 or 15 years before you open one. And most of us don't have the patience, but that's what the true wine collectors do that collect Barolo, because it's such a fantastic wine when it's been aged. It's definitely not one you want to drink in current vintage, but just absolutely great, big, tannic, bold wine. Knocks your socks off. I think I made a comment when I was doing an episode on it that Barolo is not the first. If that's the first red wine you're ever introduced to, you probably will never like red wine because you won't get it at all. It's just there's just too much going on. So, yep, you responded. Thanks. Any special bottle planned for New Year's Eve? Hey, Wine Spice, you have any good Barolos that you guys have put out there? Just curious if you guys have some. The nice thing about Barolo is there's not... Barolo, because it's one of those... It's not... The good ones, again, are not mass-produced. So one thing that I would do, if you're looking for a good Barolo, is just go into your local wine shop and find somebody who knows something about wine and ask them. Because it's hard. If I gave you a name, you could spend days trying to search around and find one. You're better off to go into the local wine shop, to the wine person that knows something, and say, I'm looking for a good Barolo. What do you have? Because most wine shops are probably only going to carry, I mean, we carry quite a few where I work. I think we only carry 10. So it's just, and we probably carry 10 at all different price points, probably starting at $40 at the cheapest and, $200 in the high end. So and we only reason carry 10 is for different price points. So they will know which Barolo they have that's good. And again, try to find one that's got some age to it. If you have that luxury, if it's a wine shop that has a library or a saving. No, I only have one planned for New Year's Eve. I don't know. We'll probably do the traditional champagne. We did a champagne tasting, and I had a 2006 vintage champagne called Stradivarius. I don't know if you ever heard of it. If it was in the thing I pulled out, but they made it in the champagne bottle instead of the old style with the big wide base, the way they used to spin them. And we had that at a tasting, and it absolutely blew my socks off. And it was only, I think it was $80, but it was a 2006 vintage champagne. And man, it was just had so much flavor. It was so yeasty, but it was called Stradivarius. It was pretty cool. So, very approachable. Make them red drinkers. Cool. My friends that don't love wine love this wine. Oh, good. That's cool. Yeah, so I always my daughter Paige is a good palate, but it's fun to have with her friends out there because they're kind of those, one of the reasons I told people I started this channel was it was people like my daughter had gotten on TikTok I was wondering, are there people like my daughters who were TikTok's a few years old, they're coming, they're in their mid-20s, early 20s, and they're used to drinking White Claws in college. And I always said, I wonder if, and my daughter and her friends would start asking me questions. I'm like, wow, I wonder if I put content out there on education, whether people would absorb it. And what I did not, I got that audience. The audience I didn't expect to get were sort of the parents of all those kids on TikTok wanting to learn about wine in a very quick 1-minute segments. And so it's kind of, Paige, that's kind of exciting to hear that they like this because I think this is one of those bottles of wine, and that if I was trying to transition somebody from white wine to red wine, this would be a really good way to transition because no dominant tannins, the acidity doesn't bother you, especially if you're eating, and it's got really great fruit. So I think it would be a good way to do it. So anyway. Did you score any special bottles, if I remember correctly? I'll let you guys have your conversation. Cool. All right. Well, I will. I could stay on here all night and chat with all of you. I would have no problem with that. So is that about half? What do you think? I don't think I'm quite half. I think I'll do a half. I'll do a splash. I'll have to be at the office at 9 or be at the shop at 9. So there we go. All right. Done for the night. So that's what I do, Mike. I'm doing that. I'm sticking it in there. So those of you that do follow me, because I do like to kind of pick and choose what you do. So if you guys come up with ideas, Mike or Aaron or any of you that want to know, that have any ideas, most of my content comes from ideas from you guys. And you guys should dictate the tastings and let me know what you think. I'll always have, it's great, again, having the wine spies because a lot of the stuff that they're, before we do tastings, like I think I'll give you guys a perspective of how great a partner they've been to me. I think when we did the Wilson Forner Valdegay and Albarino, I think they sent me like 12 bottles of wine just to taste, to see what I thought, which one I wanted to pick. So we've been pretty selective on the ones we've done, and I'm happy to keep doing it that way. But I would like to know what you guys think. Do you have any good book recommendations for a beginner wanting to branch out and learn more? You know, I do. Wait, like crab juice. All right, you guys are going. You know what I'll do? Hey, Paige, you'd be great with this, because my daughter would be a great person to ask this question of, because I think if you just read, wine books, you will be bored out of your mind. So do this. At least in Paige, I know you just did this because you just asked me this exact question, or we talked about this as you ran back for school. So she was home for Thanksgiving, ran back to college, and she grabbed my copy of The Judgment of Paris. And one of the things that I think that I love about that book is it's the history of what happened in 1976, Judgment of Paris. And ironically, we were talking about Mike Gergich just a little bit ago. And it's a true story about how the wine world was changed. And so there's tons of stuff to learn about wine within that book, but you're actually reading a real world story about what happened when we tried to go up against the French in 1976 tasting. And I think if you just start with something like, if you just want to read a textbook wine thing, there's just plenty of easy things you can do. Heck, you could subscribe to my channel and just start watching episode 1 through 145 if you wanted to. But if you wanted to find one that had kind of a cool story tied in with wine education, The Judgment of Paris is, I think, a fantastic first book if you're wanting to learn about wine and you don't want to get mind-numbingly bored about just reading a textbook about wine. So that's my advice. So Paige, you'll have to let me know. You'll have to let me know. So if that's good. So, Aaron, did you tell her that before I answered that? That would be amazing if you did. And Aaron is, Aaron's in that. Aaron, you're in you're still in students. So I think you're in your early 20s too. So you'd be great. So, and Wine Bible is a great resource. Yeah, and so that's what I meant, Wine Spies. I just think if you did that, that would be doing. Highly recommend. Okay, cool. All right, still standing to hear Steven's recent. Yeah, I did that was fun, Aaron. I think you saw I did a whole episode or episode on that, on his passing. So the other thing that I like to do, I learned. You guys will laugh when I tell you this, but I learned a lot of my wine stuff, and it inspired me starting my channel was a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, who did Wine Library TV on YouTube, and I thought that was a great way to learn. I like learning visually, verbally, as much as I do reading. I'm a huge reader, but I think it's fun to do it. I did mention it, 21. Oh, yeah. You knew I was going to say it because you've been on enough of my lives to hear me talk about it. It's great. It's a great book. What's so cool about that book is the guy who wrote it was actually at the Judgment of Paris. Like he was the only journalist that was actually there, or American journalist that was there. So it's kind of fun. So, but there was something else I was going to say. What else was I going to do? Dad. Great, thanks, Paige. Yeah, my daughter's trying to finish up her nursing. I'll tell you guys a fun little story as she jumps off. I was down there visiting with my youngest kid was looking to go to South Carolina. So if you want to hear a proud parent moment, we were doing a tour around her campus. She goes to South Carolina in Columbia. And the night before, we had dinner with her, and she said, I'm working at the health center. And so during our tour, I ran into the health center, and my daughter gave me my flu shot. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty flu shot. It was pretty cool that proud parent moment. It's pretty cool to have your your daughter, who was in nursing school senior year, giving you your flu shot. So I don't know why I thought that was cool, but it was definitely a moment I will never forget. So she was doing that and COVID shots in there, but I was already vaccinated, so we just did the flu. So anyway, so kind of fun. But I hope that answered your question about books to do. I just think there's a lot of fun, easy ways. I will tell you, I also am a big fan, and they actually comment. One of the coolest things early on is they comment on a lot of my videos. Som TV has become a follower of mine and comments on my videos from time to time. And I think they do some really cool, short educational stuff on Som TV if you want to pay the $4.99 or $5.99 a month that they do. So, yeah. Hey, thanks. Yeah, it was kind of cool. I thought I'd share that with her, especially since she's on here. So, she's a good kid, and she's going to be a nurse here shortly, so kind of neat. So, it was a cool, special moment for sure. I think the people in the, I think it was cool because there were some nursing kids in the tour at the school. I think they thought it was probably pretty cool for me to be able to share that with it. So, cool. Thanks, Paige, for doing it. Well, thanks, Wine Spies. You guys are a great partner. I appreciate it. I couldn't do these to the extent that we do them without your help. So I do appreciate you. If anybody has any specific ideas, recommendations, thoughts on what we should do next time, we will send it to me, and I will we'll figure out something fun to do next tasting. So anyway, cheers, everybody. Have a great night.